Hi and welcome along to Steve Wraith's True Crime Podcast. As you know, every now and then I get some guests on who aren't necessarily criminals, but who've got some inspirational story to tell. And I am delighted to welcome fellow Newcastle fan, Paul Boggie, who is the author of this fantastic book, Heroine to Hero, which fantastic read. It's one of those books, once you pick it up, you cannot put it down. It's available on Amazon. The link is below, so make sure you get a copy. And once you've bought your copy, leave a review. Paul, how are you, mate?
Hello, mate. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, fantastic, mate. Great to see you. And it's all the better because you're a Newcastle fan. We'll come to that towards the end of the interview. But let's just focus on your fascinating life story. And let's go back at the beginning. Where were you brought up, Paul?
So I was born in Edinburgh, in a place called Craigentinny. It was a council estate. My parents were pretty strict. I was the second eldest of four boys. So my mum had like four boys running around. Life was pretty normal. Gang life's normal, actually, because what I found was that growing up in the area that we grew up, you know, we are at school with all my friends. Then after school, we're out playing football. There's 40 or 50 young guys running around. Then petty crime starts becoming a thing because we're bored. And then things sort of start to escalate. Drugs are on the scene. Alcohol certainly was on the scene from a very early age. People were buzzing gas, sniffing glue, and that was just a normal thing for us to see as a young boy. You know, I'm only in primary school.
Yeah,
7, 8.
Were you the middle brother? Were you the oldest brother?
I was the second eldest, mate. And do you know the hard thing about that was, I was always looking for attention from my parents anyway. But because I was the second eldest, my elder brother was in the same gang as I was in. And he hated it. He hated the fact that I was jumping around with all the same gang members as him, because he couldn't get up to what he would normally want to get up to if I'm there. Because he used to beat me up all the time. And I would always say, I'll grass you to mum. I'll grass you to mum if you didn't let me go. Or if you didn't stop hitting me, I'm going to grass you. So he hated it and he was always forever beating me up. But what happened was, he got to try everything, Steve. I hated that. He got to do everything. He used to go to the discos. He used to get to go to football matches. He got to trial everything. And because he was a little shit, and all the pals that he jumped around with were little shits, what used to happen is they would go somewhere, the police would get called, word would get back to my mum and dad, right, you're not going there ever again. So when it came to my turn, Mum, can I go to a football match with my pals? No chance. Your big brother's ruined that for you. And I'd be like, oh, so everything he does wrong, I'm paying the consequences. She meant that's the way it is. So my whole life was just wanting to do these things that I wasn't able to do because my big brother had messed up when it was his opportunity to do it. So that was just life. Obviously, I rebelled and done it anyway, as you do. You just didn't ask the mum and dad. You just go anyway and hope that you didn't get caught. But yeah, so life was just sort of, it was okay. There's always elements.
What did your parents do, mate? What did your parents do?
So my mum, my dad was a postman. Then he worked in an office block as well. My mum, actually, she was like a school dinner lady. She was a cleaner. My mum had 2 or 3 jobs on the go all the time. And my dad always worked full time with loads of overtime. So that was because I think with my mum having 4 boys, she really wanted us to have things, that we wouldn't have unless you worked endlessly to get them. Like, we played football every single minute, every single day. She would take us to the shops. She would buy us all brand new trainers. We would go out, meet all our friends and all that. And so, oh, see, Boggie's got his brand new trainers on. Oh, they're cool. Passes the ball. They kick the ball over. You know, and before you can it, you're thumping the ball against the concrete wall. And then you look down at your trainers. They're my brand new trainers and I've just wrecked them. My mum is going to go ape. You know, so we'd go home and that, and my mum, the first thing she'd look, let me see your new trainers. You'd walk in the living room. She's sitting there with her pals and all that, saying, okay, talking about, I've got the laddies on new trainers today. And I'd walk in and they were absolutely wrecked because I'd been out for a few hours playing football. So forever keeping us in trainers and clothes and stuff. So they just worked endlessly to support us. Back then, we didn't appreciate it, Steve.
Yeah.
You didn't even realise that they're doing that. It's not until later that you think, when you look back and think, my mum had 3 jobs. You know, my dad worked all the hours. Why would they do that? You know, because we never went family holidays. We didn't go family holidays at all. We couldn't afford it. Going abroad on a family holiday was unheard of back then in the mid-80s and stuff. So it was just like to keep us in clothing, Christmases, birthdays, food. So just a hard-working family. But my mum and dad were strict. They taught us from an early age about right and wrong, the dangers of drugs. You know, it's not like we didn't know. They were well respected within the community as well. You know, and it was just one of these things where in that area, you couldn't really do anything without word getting back to your mum and dad because all the friends in the community would go and tell them. So you were always getting caught out with things. Then I never really tried drugs. I had a wee sip of the bottle of Buckfast that every now and again. I didn't like it. All my friends were drinking it, you know. And the ages in the gang that I was in. So, you know, I remember being 7 and 8 years old, and some of the gang members were in their mid-20s. So they can go to the shops and buy bottles of Buckfast, no drama. It wasn't like we were having to go and try and source alcohol. They were just able to go to the shop and buy it. So I would drink that. Same with cannabis. Joints were always getting passed round. I would try it, didn't like it. So as life goes on, started getting a little bolder, get my first job, dishwasher in an Italian restaurant. I loved it. All my friends are out misbehaving and I'm cleaning dishes every weekend, but I'm getting paid money. So I'm getting this new amount of money that I've never had before, earning more money. I leave school at 16, couldn't wait. My mum says that you can leave school, but you have to go straight into a job, otherwise you're not leaving. So I got a job in Bakers, Crawford's the Bakers, making Mr. Blobby cakes and stuff. Absolutely loved it. Then at the age of 18, heroin came into the area and everybody started using heroin.
You see, we're in a gang. I mean, yeah. Obviously a gang that we think of it, I guess, in Newcastle is just like, you know, kids hanging around the street. You're playing football, you're hanging around the street, you're hanging around the shops. You do progress. You know, when I lived in Gateshead and I was brought up, we would do the jumpers for goalposts thing, would play football till we got called in. But there were other kids up to mischief and I guess, you know, vandalising things, you know, taking recreational drugs, smashing windows, nicking apples, you know, shoplifting. Is that the kind of thing you were doing in your gang, Paul?
Yeah. So that obviously, I watch all the podcasts and stuff, Steve, and you know, a lot of them are like notorious criminals, gangsters, and stuff. And it wasn't like that. It wasn't like that for me. It wasn't really like that for us. Like you just said there, it was pretty petty stuff that we were doing, but there were lunatics within the gang. we know who they were from an early age. Actually, these guys were just crazy, and a lot of them came from broken families and stuff. So when you're hanging around in a gang, maybe 30, 40, 50 young laddies, and you smash a few windows, you throw a few bricks at police cars because they'll chase you. Then there was a few of them that liked knives, and that was something I never liked it. It always made me quite scared when I used to see knives. And these are my friends that have got the knives, and I still had that element of fear even from them, because I knew that they were a bit no right in the head, and that they wouldn't think twice about using it. Maybe even to me, that was the reality. Like, I think, I didn't want to get an argument with them, because if they pull that knife in a fit of rage, they might come for me. And it's same with sort of the crime that was committed. That most of us, the majority of us, we smashed a few windows. Some of the guys would go and steal from the supermarkets, or I was bad for lighting fires. That was my thing. I always had a box of matches in my pocket. So with any opportunity, if I seen a bin that had cardboard in it, yes. Never thought twice about lighting a match and putting it in the bin and having the bin going up. And that was sort of the extent of my crime. I never really got involved with any of the more serious stuff growing up, although there was pockets of the gang that done that, and they were known for that. And I don't know if it's respect that they get, or if it's an element of fear that they got. It seemed back then that they got a lot of respect within the gang from other gang members, because they were doing these pretty horrific crimes against other people. But for me personally, I was just a little bit scared. I was scared of what they could do to someone.
Were you sticking in at school, or was your schoolwork suffering? Were you bunking off?
Yeah, I was just a joker. Like, I never engaged my brain the way that I knew I could have. When I was going to classes, the people that I'm jumping around with, sort of in the gang at night, of a night time, they're in my class at school. Certainly in secondary school, when you're getting to early teenage years, they're in my school. So we're all hanging around together. We're all misbehaving together. And it was one of those things to fit in. And all I wanted back then was, I had this feeling that I wanted to fit in. I wanted people to like me. And the best way that I found to do that was to make them laugh. Often at my own expense. I didn't really care. They were laughing, so it was good. And my schoolwork really suffered, because I would go into class and I would be cheeky to the teachers. Word would get back to my mum and my dad, and I'd get in a lot of trouble for it, and I continued doing it, and I knew I wasn't engaging with my homework and everything that I was being taught. I'll do it next year. I'll pay attention next year. I always had that in my mind. I thought, I'm at the secondary school for 4 years. So in the first year, it was, I'll do it in second year. The second year came and went. I thought, I'll do it when I'm in third year. I'll properly knuckle down, and I'll pay attention, and I'll learn. And I never done it. And then by the time it got to fourth year, halfway through fourth year, I'm now trying to learn everything. But the realization that everything that the school was trying to teach me for the first 3 years was all becoming apparent why they were trying to teach us that. I'm trying to learn, cram everything in, do my exams, and then I'm getting B's and C's, some D's as well. There was certainly no A's. And then I thought, well, that doesn't matter. Doesn't matter about my school grades, because I want to leave school anyway, and I want to go straight into working from 16. Like I said, my mum had always said all the way through life, if you want to leave school, you have to have a job. So I got the job at Crawford's, which was amazing. So that meant that I could leave school. My mum and dad would be happy. I'm paying them a little bit of digs. I'm earning my own money. And then it's like, obviously you missed out on so much learning. Then I think, certainly for the 7 years that I was on drugs, I'm still a young man. I'm 18. From 18 to 25, I learned nothing. It's a long time.
You see, you got into cannabis, buck fast. You didn't like it, but did you enjoy smoking cannabis? Did you enjoy, because obviously you're moving on to harder drugs. Did you enjoy cannabis?
I never enjoyed any mind-altering drug really that I ever tried. There is no drug other than probably like amphetamine and ecstasy and stuff, but even trying those, anything that made me feel different in a way that I couldn't understand what was going on, I didn't enjoy it. So when I had a drink of something, the taste wasn't great, but you get that sort of tipsy feeling, you get that sort of drunk feeling. I didn't like it because I didn't feel like I was myself. Certainly smoking cannabis, I would have a puff of a joint, and then right after it, like, whoa, like things are a bit strange, and I didn't like it. Even smoking my very first cigarette, going back to a very young boy, the head rush that I got from the cigarette, the very first time I inhaled it, and I got that head rush, I was like, oh, I don't like that. I think I went green. Everything, all drugs that I've ever tried, really, initially, when I've took them, I've not enjoyed it. Which is crazy when you think that you continue to use, well, I did, I continued to use some of these drugs. Even although physically, I hated the feeling. And mentally, what was going on in my brain when I was on these drugs, I didn't like that either. But then I continued to go back and try them. Early on, it was the thing like fitting in. If everybody is drinking out the bottle of Buckfast, and the bottle of Buckfast comes to me, and I don't drink out the bottle of Buckfast, I'm going to get bullied or potentially beat up. That was the reality. And I'd seen it happen when people refused to do what everybody else was doing, and I didn't want that to happen to me. So I always just went with the gang and done whatever they were doing. Same with the joints. Everybody's passing the joint round and stuff, and it was one of those things I didn't particularly like the smell of it either. But I would do it because I'm wanting to be part of this gang. I'm wanting to fit in. I'm wanting people to like me, and everybody else is doing it, so that means I've got to do it.
It's a bit of peer pressure, isn't it?
Yeah. So many times people got outed out of the gang because they wouldn't do stuff. They would be on the outskirts, and I wanted to be in the middle. I wanted to hear everything that was going on. I wanted to hear what the plans were for that night. If we're going to sneak into Easter Road Football Stadium, if we're going to try and go to a rave, or, there was all these plans that we're getting in, and I wanted to be right sitting in the middle, listening, earwigging. I never had an input ever. I just wanted to be there and listen to them all talking and making plans of what they were doing. But there was also people that would come in with the vicinity, and they would get beat up, and they would get told to F off, go stand somewhere else. you know. And there was a lot of my friends actually that I went to school with. They were on the outskirts, and I always remember being in the middle, you know. And it was like sitting listening, looking at all my pals cutting around with the football or on the BMX away over there, and they were never allowed to be in there. And I just wanted to be part of something. So that was sort of, like you say, peer pressure. You just had that. I felt that urge to want to be that person. I never wanted to commit the crimes and stuff, Steve, or anything, but it's one of those things. If you fly with the crows, you get shot down with the crows. And there were so many instances where things happened and the police would turn up, you know, and I would get taken home by the police, and I knew I was going to get battered with my mum and dad. As soon as I'm sitting in the back of the police car, I already know what's coming. And it was like I never done anything. And it's like, I remember the very first time the police taking me home, my mum and dad sitting down. My mum and dad were like, you could see the shock in my mum's face. Sorry, mate. The shock in my mum's face and the anger in my dad's face. The fact that a police car had pulled up to the stair. All the neighbours are going to be talking. Here's Paul getting brought home for the police. And a lot of the times they would say, like, he never actually done anything. He wasn't the one that actually committed the crime, but he was there. And I always remember that they said that to my mum and dad, if he flies with the crows, he'll get shot down with the crows. So I'll never really forget that. I never committed anything really bad at all, apart from the fires. And fires, obviously, I understand now how dangerous it is to light fires in the manner that I lit them. Back then, I didn't really care. I was a bit of a rebel, and it was like fitting in. You know, I was doing something that was keeping me part of that gang. I just never really. You just don't think as a young boy. The sort of things that you do, you don't really dwell on it. And now obviously being older and looking back, you know, I'm ashamed of some of the things that I've done. We've just obviously had bonfire night, fireworks. You know, so I was a bit of an arsonist back then. So bonfire was my favourite time of year, over and above Christmas and anything else. Bonfire night. We used to light the biggest fires ever, and we used to buy shed loads of fireworks, and they would just light fireworks everywhere and anywhere. There was a lot of elderly people that lived in the area that we lived, Steve. And I'm cutting around with these bazookas that lit off 3 huge bangs. And I'm going and putting them in stairwells and lighting them and running and hearing the bangs going off in the stair. And thinking I was a dog's bollocks. Everybody's all laughing because of something that I had done. And there was elderly people in that stair. What would they have been going through at that moment in time? Obviously, hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? But, you know, I was just a little arsehole, to be honest. And it all became that sort of that peer pressure, that need and want to be fitting in. I would do things that otherwise I don't think I would have done. I just didn't. Yeah, I didn't have any remorse. I didn't think about it. I didn't go home at night and lose sleep about, oh, I've lit a fire and I've burnt something down.
Yeah.
Tell
us how you progressed into the hard drugs then, Paul, because it's a big jump to go from, you know, smoking a cannabis joint and drinking alcohol and, you know, causing a little bit of mischief. But to take the progression, you said that heroin came to Leith in Edinburgh. Tell us about that.
So it was the area that we lived in. We grew up. We all knew the dangers of heroin. We had lost some people to heroin use. So we were all fully aware of the dangers of that drug. Parents and at school, heroin kills. It's all we were taught. You see the spoon, needle, and the belt. You watch a 20, 30-second video, heroin kills, and that's all. So we knew the dangers there. Heroin came into Craigentiny, and everybody within, not everybody within the gang, I would say in my gang there was a dozen of people that we used to hang around with on a daily basis at that point, 18 years old. And they all started chasing the dragon, which is with the foil and the tutor. I didn't know. I'd never seen foil before in my life. I didn't understand what it was. They all started taking it. By that point, I was a boy racer in Edinburgh. So I'm cutting around nightclubs with the music on, peeping my horn at all the girls as I'm going past. Just loving life. That was my thing. I liked being in the car. I liked trying to race people in the car. So that was my life. And then everybody started to chase the dragon. Nobody was socialising with me at all. I hadn't fallen out with anyone. And I had the best car back then. A black Escort XR3 I had, 1984. I had that car and it was an amazing car. And they stopped socialising. What they were doing is they were going down to Portobello Promenade and they had started going to buy heroin. And they had started to chase the dragon. Like I said, I didn't know what it was. I found them one night. I drove down in my car, pulled up. I seen foil. Didn't think anything of it. Didn't know what they were doing. They were still very standoffish with me. They sort of just ignored me. They could see me in the car, but they ignored me. Eventually, one of my friends got out that car and came into mine. And he told me about chasing the dragon. I didn't know what chasing the dragon was, Steve. So when he said to me, when I asked what you're all doing, and he says they're all in there chasing the dragon, and I was like laughing, like, what's that? He said heroin. What? Like, for real? Like, they're all no danger. Nah. And some of the friends that were in that car chasing the dragon, no. Definitely no. They had families like mine. They weren't broken families. They were well-respected families. They had good upbringings and stuff. And they were in that car. And they were smoking it. And then 2 weeks, I never touched heroin for 2 weeks. But I still had that feeling of wanting to fit in. Driving around Edinburgh at the nightclubs on my own is no fun. You know, it just wasn't any fun being in the car on my own. I wanted to fit in with these gang members, so I foolishly, on my part, decided, right, I'll take you to buy the heroin. Come in my car. I'll also let you smoke the heroin in my car. So for 2 weeks, I would go up to the dealers, then drop them at the dealers, sit and wait on them until they got it. We'd go back to Portobello Promenade, sit at the sea, and they would smoke it. It would smell horrific. It's an absolutely horrific smell. I remember thinking, that's disgusting. I tried to put the window down, and they all went off their head. You need to keep the windows up because the flame underneath the foil, if a wee bit of wind catches it, you're going to waste all our heroin. So you need to keep the windows up. So I remember sitting in the car, bellowing with this smoke, this horrific smell, and noticing my friends out it, like sleeping. Looked like they were sleeping. And I was like, what? Why? Like, I couldn't understand why. So 2 weeks of doing that, I'd have an argument with my mum one day. I fit of rage, I leave, I go and pick them up, we go to get the heroin, We go back to the promenade. Every day they'd be, Paul, try it. And I'm like, no, it smells disgusting. No chance. I'm not trying it. I didn't mind taking you, but I'm not trying it. So this day I was angry at my mum, and we'd got the heroin. Try it. And I was like, what do I do? And they said, right, you take the tutor and you chase this bit of smoke. We're going to burn it. And, you know, they explained it all. And so I'm doing it, and I've done it. Horrific. Disgusting. Horrible feeling. A bit like the very first time I tried cannabis and I tried a cigarette, I felt green. Like, in my mind, I'd went somewhere, did not like it. I got out the car, I lay on the concrete, looking up at the sky, and to this day, Steve, I'll never know why I got back in the car and continued to do it. I don't understand why, after having that physical feeling that I just had, they were still going to keep doing it, so I kept doing it. And then, quite naively, there's no spoons, so I'm not going to get addicted. I'm not going to die, because it's no real heroin. Real heroin's a spoon, a needle, and a belt, and that's what we see. So, this must be all right. If all my friends that have had good upbringings are starting to dabble in this drug, it must be all right. It must be relatively safe. We're going to be able to stop at any given time that we want. Surely. Aye. You know, self-talking back then would have been along those lines, that the reality is we can stop. It's not that dangerous. And oh, how wrong we all were, because some of them are still on heroin to this day, and sadly some of them died as well. So it was very wrong to have that thought that just because we're not injecting it, we're only smoking it, that the dangers are any less severe. I remember trying to stop taking heroin, and the realization that it wasn't as easy as I ever thought it was going to be, just to stop. Then I remember very vividly the very first time that I tried to stop taking it and actually going and getting heroin. And taking the heroin was such an amazing feeling. Like, I can't even explain. I try and explain it every day on my social media videos and stuff. It felt amazing. And I think at that moment, Steve, I realised I'm in a lot of danger here. You know, because I had like the symptoms of cold turkey. It was horrific. And then I was taking this drug, and instantly it was just taking all those feelings away. And I just felt that warmth going through my whole body. Just felt warm. Even if it was cold, it was in winter time, you always feel this warmth inside. And I realised, like, I'm in danger here. And then it just continued. I continued trying to stop. I continued to fail to ever stop. It had just become my life. I had given up. Heroin does kill. Heroin's going to kill me. I don't know when. I don't know where. But it's imminent. So I'm just going to stop caring about everyone and everything. And whenever things get tough, or I get angry, or I get sad, or I have any of these feelings that I don't like, heroin's my friend, because heroin's going to take all those feelings away. And I knew that. And that was the reality, was that whenever bad shit was going on in my life, I always had my friend heroin, who could take away all my problems. Whatever they were, as severe as they were, it didn't matter. Heroin was able to take it away. So I grew this built this relationship around this friend that was a drug that could just help me to overcome anything, certainly in the short term. Just became, I just given up on life, period. I thought, I'm going to die. That was, constantly thinking that. And then when you think like that, it's not a very nice feeling, because I love all my brothers and I love all my family, my aunties and my uncles and my friends and stuff. I loved everyone. And because I'm sitting thinking about that on a daily basis and I didn't like thinking like that, I'm going away and getting more heroin. Sometimes even when I don't need it, I'm just going to go and get more drugs to stop thinking about dying. I'm just still a young guy. I'm only 18, 19, 20. No, I barely even started living a life and I'm already self-talking every minute, every day about thinking about dying because I've not got the ability to stop taking this drug. I've tried, I can't do it. I've tried again, can't do it. I've tried again, I'm never going to be able to do it. I'm trying my hardest to stop taking it and I can't do it. My friends are trying to stop and they can't do it either. So the little community that we built around the heroin, we cut ourselves off from society, really. We just had this little bubble, our own little people to help fund the drugs and the way that we would fund things just to be able to get heroin. They were trying to stop and they couldn't. I was trying to stop and we couldn't. I think the realisation back then for all of us was we're not going to last, I think.
You've painted a very graphic picture there, and obviously, you said sadly some people didn't make it. Some people are still hooked on heroin. How did you manage to turn your life around and come off heroin?
So it was 13 times I'd relapsed, and I'd say to my mum and dad, I promised them that I would stop each of those times and stuff, and I couldn't do it. And I meant it though, Steve. That was the thing. When I promised my mum and dad, give me £20, this will be the last time I take the drug, I promise. Often crying. They'd give me the money, and I meant what I said about stopping. And because I couldn't stop, that threw me deeper into drugs. I got an opportunity to do a course about the mind. And this is the amazing thing. This is how I'm able to sit in front of you right now. As it was nothing to do with addiction. It was about the mind, the conscious, the subconscious, the creative subconscious, the power of self-talk, what self-talk is, this little voice in our head that we've had our whole lives, positive information, negative information, how to look out for that, and all these tips and about the mind. So I'm attending that course as a drug addict, and I didn't think I was learning what they were trying to teach me. It was for a week. So for those 5 days on that course, I'm sitting there listening to this American psychologist called Lou Tice tell me it's a choice. Everything that you do in life is a choice. I'm sitting there thinking, no, it isn't. It can't be. That can't be right. It's all somebody's fault. My parents' fault I'm a smackhead. It's the government's fault I'm a smackhead. It's all my pals' fault. They're the ones that made me take it. It's all their faults. There's always somebody to blame. And then when I finished the course shortly after, on May the 14th, 17 years ago, I woke up in the morning. I'd had heroin the night before, had all my tablets lined up on the table, but by that point I had methadone, codeine, tramadol, Valium, antidepressants, cannabis, all on my table, as I did every morning. and I would take drugs first thing in the morning. As soon as I opened my eyes, I would take drugs. I would make a milky cup of tea, and I would sit and I'd swallow tablets over before I'd done anything. Well, this 17 years ago, I come into the living room, see all the drugs sitting there, and I think, something's different. Something's definitely different. I had been heavily depressed by this point. I'd been suicidal. I'd thought about taking my own life. And I went and done this course about the mind and the power of the mind and how amazing this thing called the mind is and stuff. Not thinking that I knew what was happening or I was taking on board what they were saying. I always remember that American psychologist guy about the mind and the way that the self-talking is a choice. Things are a choice. Everything's a choice in life. That might be right. I remember that realization. He might be right. I'm going to try it. So I walked, had a big massive mirror above the fireplace. I lived alone. Big huge mirror. I put my nose on the mirror and I looked myself square in the eyes. And by this point I was under 8 stone. My ribs were showing, black circles under my eyes, gaunt face. And I remember standing in the mirror, looking straight into my eyes. Am I allowed to swear, Steve?
Yeah.
I remember getting really, really aggressive and saying, don't fucking ask for heroin ever again because you're never getting it. And I was like, wow, something's happened. I remember, I've got goosebumps now, you'll be able to see them. I got these huge goosebumps on my whole, I only had a pair of scabby boxer shorts on. And like I said, it was all skin and bone. I remember looking at my body and there was goosebumps and stuff all down my legs. Over my whole body, these huge goosebumps. And I was like, I've done it. Instantly, I'd done it. It's true. It works. Because in my mind, with my self-talk, I had this question that I had to ask myself. What do I want? I asked myself the question. All I wanted back then was not to be a heroin addict. All the shame and the guilt that I brought on all my family. You know, they were all ashamed of me. And I was ashamed of myself. And I just didn't want to be a heroin addict. Stood in the mirror, said, don't fucking ask for heroin ever again because you're never getting it. And instantly, for that moment, I was like, shit, I've done it. Cold turkey's not even started. As crazy as this is going to sound to a lot of people, I knew at that instant moment in the mirror, I would never touch heroin for the rest of my life. Instant, like, I knew. And I've proved it because I'm 17 years now and I've not had any relapses. I've not even came close to relapsing on heroin once. I took away the option in that mirror to ever even think about taking that drug again. It was taken away. And I've done that because what I realised is it is a choice, but it's not a choice that the government make for me. It's not a choice that my brothers or my mum and dad can make for me to stop taking heroin. They can help, but actually the choice lies within me and it's not within my heart, because within my heart 13 times I've failed, because within my heart I wanted to stop from my mum and dad because I'm seeing it was destroying them. Up there, that's where the choice lies. And what they had taught me about the mind, and I started to tap into my own mind and the way my own mind was working, the way I was thinking about myself, became apparent that no wonder you're suicidal. No wonder you're depressed every single day. You sit and you think about this and you think about this. You think about yourself that way, and you do this and you do that. And, you know, I started sort of looking at the way that I was, the way the person that I'd become in such a negative way. Self-destructive, sabotaging anything good in life was what I used to do. And it was just when I realised that I was doing that, and this course had taught me that it's a choice, that I can start to change things. So instantly, you know, I went through the cold turkey, Steve. You know, a week or two, absolute hell. Everything that involves with cold turkey. But the whole duration of that time, physically, I was in such a bad way. But mentally, I was very strong. Because I knew I was never touching it. I knew it was just a case of flushing this drug out there. And with the mind, because I was an addict, I didn't know back then, but I started running. I started Forrest Gumping it around Edinburgh. Music in my ears, running trainers on. At first it was a walk and a jog, because I was in a pretty bad physical way. And then you got shin splints and stuff, and run around all the place. And then I flipped my addiction from heroin to running. Whenever I felt sad, angry, depressed, running trainers on, rather than going for a bag of heroin. And starting to work out things, well, if it is a choice, I can choose to eat more. I can choose to get fit. I can choose to go and get a job. I can choose to go and get another car. I can choose to do this and do that. So I went and got a job. I got a car. Got a girlfriend. I got all these things that I didn't believe I was capable of achieving back then. This mind had opened up, this possibility of the world being my oyster, of going and doing what I want. So I'm back. I put the weight on. You know, all this sort of physical stuff that had happened to me through the heroin and methadone and all the other drugs started to get colour in my cheeks. And then I'm sitting in a supermarket on my lunch break, and then I see Army Be the Best, you know, and I'm sitting reading this paper. I see it, Army Be the Best. Never thought about being a soldier, ever. And I get this little thing, the Army Be the Best, and I was like, I wonder. Let's try it. So it's when I mentioned about being a soldier, people just laugh. I get it. I totally understand why every single person laughed, family included. Everybody laughed. Here I am, you know, coming up 5 years clean, all the heroin, all the drugs, 5 years off, and I'm almost 30, and here I am now talking about being a soldier. Being a soldier, I'm not sure if you're aware, it used to be 27 years of age.
Yeah.
So my time had been and gone. They just changed it 6 months prior to 32. So there's the first part of destiny, if you like. So I was extremely fit. I started boxing every day. I started lifting weights for the last 2 or 3 years prior to going to the army recruitment. So I was, you know, I was ripped. I was extremely fit because I was still doing my running around Edinburgh every single day, 4 days a week for extensive runs. So I was extremely fit. So I'm going into the army recruitment office, not really thinking about what I'm doing. Just walk in. There's a pipe major of the Scots Guards sitting there. I believe Scots Guards were just toy soldiers. They're just the guys that stand outside Buckingham Palace with the red tunic, the bear skin, and the rifle, and that's all they do. But here was this pipe major asking me a few questions about myself and then saying, right, I'll get you Scots Guards. Keep up the training. So I left, ran all the way home. I go on Google, I type in Scots Guards, and right enough, they're at Windsor Castle, Buckingham Palace, and I'm watching it, I'm thinking, that guy's told me that I can do this for a living. That's a change in life. That's no change in my job. This is going to change my whole life, being one of these guys. And then and it clips, and then next thing that's an Afghan, shots getting fired, and you hear the rounds coming over the guy's heads, and I'm like, oh fuck, like, and I'm looking and I'm like, aye, it is, because they're saying it's Scots Guards, so the Scots Guards are on the front line. Right, okay, shit's getting real now. And I'm thinking to myself, sitting there thinking, well, why the fuck not? Why not at least try? Why not just try go and do the medical, see how you get on. If you get the medical, go and do basic training, see how you get on. You might fucking surprise yourself and you might pass out as a guardsman. That was the thing. You're probably not going to get it. You're probably going to be too old. You probably get injured. You're probably this. Again, the mind sort of works in mysterious ways, and that's what I was sort of thinking. Well, just go, but just try your hardest. That's all I can ask of myself. Just try. So I did. I went for the medical. Said, used to be a smackhead. I was on heroin for 7 years. These are the dates. Blah blah blah. Give them all the information. Come back, enjoy basic training. Like, wow. So there's me going down to Catterick in North Yorkshire to become a guardsman, not only to train how to march outside Buckingham Palace and present arms to the Queen and salute with the rifle and do all these crazy attach bayonet, like teaching an old dog new tricks. I did struggle with the drill side of it, but also to become a fighting soldier, to learn how to kill, to learn how to turn the aggression on and then be able to turn it instantly off, and the discipline that comes with it and everything. And so I just went, and I'd already been broken in life and built myself back up. And then here now I've got the army, the Scots Guards training instructors, trying to break me down to build me back up. And I often say to them, look, Sergeant, you are trying to break me down to build me back up. I says, but I'm not in that mind space now. I've been broken down that much. And they're like, we get that. Is that because of all the heroin and stuff? I'm like, yeah. He says, and I've done this thing about the course, and I understand my mind and the way it works. So I understand with the younger guys that you're trying to break them down and build them back up into guardsmen and stuff. I says, but you think you're going to have your work cut out, try to break me in the way that you're trying to do it with them. And they're like, we'll see. There's a challenge in itself, trainee guardsman Boggie. There's a challenge. I'll break you. And they often used to say to me, and I'm like, well, good luck. They never did. But I'm passing out at Catterick. All the family are down, and I'm like, fucking hell, shit's got real. Sergeant Major's talking about how proud we should be, how proud all the family should be. Your sons are going to be sent out to ceremonial duties down in London. Then when they return from there, they're going to be sent over to Afghanistan. I remember him saying it, and I remember standing there in my red tunic and stuff, thinking, fuck me, I'm going to Afghan. Like, I've done it. I've passed out. I've actually done it. I'm not trainee guardsman Boggie. I'm guardsman Boggie. I'm like, fuck. So 9 months I spent down in London doing all the ceremonial duties and stuff, and I loved it. I get shipped back to Catterick. I start my pre-deployment training to go to Afghanistan on my first tour. I go through all the fear, the anxiety, and then it builds into excitement because all my army pals round about me sort of realised that I was a wee bit scared about going to Afghan, and they sort of came up and brought me up. So it's excitement. Then I'm travelling from Edinburgh down to Catterick, past Otterburn, and my army friend crashes the car, 70 mile an hour. I break my back and crush my spine. End up in a fucking field full of snow. I'm all smashed to bits. The two of them get out of the car. They're on their phones, phoning ambulances and shit like that. And I'm lying in in the snow, shaking because of the hypothermia, greeting. No, I wasn't physically greeting, but I was like wincing, like moaning because of this pain in my back. I knew something serious had happened to my back. I didn't know the extent back then, but so then I get taken to Newcastle, 40 minutes in an ambulance. I go through that little fucking polo mint. I remember lying there on this board and coming out and stuff. And then the doctors come and see me and said, right, you broke your back and you've compressed your spine. So I'm like, oh, fucking great. I'm still going to Afghan, though. The army came to visit me. And I'm lying in my bed. My mum and dad are standing there. My mum's greeting her eyes out. And they actually did say they were happy. But they picked a horrible time to tell me, Steve.
Yeah.
That they were happy because I later found out, obviously, it was because they were worried about me going to Afghan, about no returning. So they were happy. They weren't happy I broke my back. But I was in that mindset, saying to the officers and my sergeant major at the bedside, I'm still going to Afghan with my pals and stuff. I'm still going to be able to go. They're like, just concentrate on your injuries, get yourself better, we'll get you back down to Catterick eventually and we'll see what happens. And I'm like, right, okay. My pals are due to ship out in a couple of months' time. No fucking chance I'm going to make that tour. But in my mind, I was like, get better, and I might still make it. Foolishly. So I go back down to Catterick after all the rehab, intense rehab courses. I do all that sort of stuff. I go to the doctor. The doctor has me on tramadol, codeine. We know about your heroin addictions, Paul. We know about your drug addictions. This is all we've got. And you're going to be on drugs for the rest of your life. You have to accept it. Here is your prescription for your codeine, your tramadol, gabapentin, pregabalins, amitriptylines and stuff. So there you go. So I'm back in Catterick, swallowing all these tablets. I've got an addictive personality. I start swallowing stupid amounts of these tablets, getting high or getting wasted on these tablets because that's what I used to do. And I'm wallowing in self-pity. My friends get sent to Afghanistan. Everybody else is moving on with their life. And I'm here now broken. A broken man sitting in his room, 30-year-old. Had all this world's my oyster. I'm going to go to Afghanistan. I'm going to write this book called Heroin to Hero. When I come back to Afghan, I'm going to publish it. The army are going to help me publish it. The officers all love it. The story of me being on the smack when I was in Edinburgh and then becoming a guardsman. Everybody's all loving it. And all those dreams were absolutely crushed, like my spine. Completely crushed. I'm sitting there broken, jumping through the hoops every day. Everybody's getting promoted around about me. Everybody's getting on and doing things that I was supposed to be doing, and I'm having to watch them. They're going on other tours, they're doing this and doing that, going to Africa, and I can't go. My injuries, can't go. Wallowing in self-pity. It wasn't my fault. I never crashed the car. It's their fault. And became depressed. Then medical discharge, 2015. So I think, well, I get sent back to Edinburgh in the same flat that I used to take all the heroin in, sitting in my flat, taking drugs. And then I had a breakdown. Then I got married and we decided to move over to Fife, which is just over the water into the countryside. We've moved over here a couple of years ago. My wife comes in and says, see, we're in lockdown. And I was like, what's that? She says, oh, there's this virus or something. We're not going to be allowed out for a couple of weeks. I went, all right. So I'm sitting there thinking, what am I going to do? So I said to the wife, where's all the paperwork for the book? She says, it's in the cupboard. I nearly burnt the paperwork a few times through wallowing and self-pity. So I've got this paperwork out. Sat up for 3 days and 3 nights. I'm conscious of time, Steve. We're at an hour. Am I still all right?
Go for it, mate. Go for it. We'll finish off.
So I'm sitting writing this book that I've been writing when I was on heroin. I've been writing parts of it when I was in the army before my accident. I've been writing little snippets and putting it in. And obviously, like I said, I spoke to the army. Heroin to Hero was going to be the title. So I didn't feel like a hero. I was never going to be a hero, ever. You know, I'm never got to Afghan and stuff. So that's it. Done. Sitting writing the book on all these tablets. An addict. Writing. And I'm sitting and I'm writing the bit about the mind. I'm reliving that because I'm having to put it in the book as well. I'm reliving that memory. You're doing that course and everything being about the mind. It's a choice. Right, well, it's true. Light bulb moment. The reason I'm sitting wallowing in self-pity right now, that's a choice. Didn't want to do that. The fact that you're on all these codeine tablets and all these tramadol tablets, you've listened to the doctors and the white coats that have told you you're going to be an addict for the rest of your life because of your injuries. Is that true? Let's find out. Let's put it to the test. So I'm 18 months completely drug-free. I've got the same injuries that I sustained back then. So the doctors were wrong. I'm not on any drugs. So when I'm writing this book, I'm re-educating myself about the positive mindset and stuff, and I'm starting to use it again, and I'm starting to put all the wrongs that I was doing in my mind right, making the changes. And then I think, right, title. Right, okay, right. So what we're going to do for the rest of your life? What are you going to do? So it's self-talking. I'm not saying it out loud. Wife's in her bed. You know, sitting there thinking, right, what am I going to do? Sitting listening to Tom Walker. I didn't know who he was. I had Spotify on. Tom Walker, Leave a Light On. The song come on. And I'd listen to it. And then I put it on repeat. And I remember sitting, thinking about leaving a light on. I was like, you know, all those homeless people out there dying of hypothermia in Scotland because there's snow on the ground. I remember getting angry and sad, sitting listening to that song. I was like, right, you finish the book, publish the book, donate all the money to homelessness in Scotland, then start dreaming again about things. Like, so back then it was like dreaming about getting a car again, a job again, putting weight on. Well, back at the beginning of lockdown, it was starting to dream about, right, you can help people with your story in the book. Addicts that didn't believe in themselves, you can help them. Family members that need some understanding of where their addict family members are at, you can maybe help them. If nobody takes any positive message from your book, the one positive thing they can take is that by buying the book, they've helped homeless people in Scotland. So I'm starting to figure out, starting to work through and think, right, what am I going to do? So I'm going to set up charity events, and I've got social media. I'm in lockdown. I'm not allowed to go out, but so I set up my Facebook account and my Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube. You know, and I set up these accounts and just started pinging out my message to people. Like, look, I was a smackhead, and if I could turn my life around and go on and be a guardsman, then regardless of where you're at and where your past is at and where your mindset's at right now, there is a choice, a change that's available for everyone. You just have to understand that it's up to you, no me. It has to come for you. And once you realise that, maybe you can make some massive changes in your life. So that's basically what I've been doing since I published the book. You know, I'm going into prisons now. They've just done an audio book that's going to be getting released on Monday of this. And the inmates are going to be reading. The inmates have recorded reading a chapter each. And that's going to be getting played out across all the Perth prison in Scotland. 700 inmates. Just loads of things, Steve, that I'm just trying to ultimately, and obviously the reason I reached out to you and I appreciate you helping is that I'm trying to, not just in Scotland, around the world, I'm just trying to make people aware that,
Paul, it's an inspirational story, and I think anybody who reads the book will benefit massively from it. I think we can all learn a lesson from your life story, and that's the beauty of it. You've learned your lesson, you've progressed, and you've created something very special, and now you're going out to help people. People can buy the book on Amazon, audio book out as well. That's it, Heroine to Hero. Wonderful, wonderful read. I've got to finish, mate, by asking a question about our football team. Are you happy with the takeover, and are you happy with Eddie Howe?
Yeah, I think, do you know, when we look, I am happy with the takeover. I think it fills Newcastle with uncertainty, but excitement. And excitement in a good way, because as we know, money can't buy you everything. But in footballing terms, money can buy you almost everything. And then we look, I gauge it off of what happened with Man City. Growing up, Man City were sort of a mediocre team. I'm sure even Man City fans would agree with that. And then you look at Man City now, and that transition that took Man City from money being pumped into the club, they're buying players like Robinho and all these other sort of players that they bought, spent millions and millions. And they ended up at times not with a team that can gel. So I'm fully expecting Newcastle to sort of be the same. It's not going to be a quick fix. But if you bring in world-class players, and eventually, with the right manager and the right training staff, you get them to eventually gel. Then you're going to create a team. Newcastle are going to be world beaters within a few years. I believe that. I think that they'll get a title. And how crazy is that? Newcastle winning the league. Hold on, right? I know Leicester done it, right? And that was what, a 5,000 to 1 chance in the bookies that Leicester were going to win it. Jamie Vardy obviously played a huge part. So did the rest of the team, but Vardy really did help them get to that title. Nobody expected that, and that was really a shock. It's not going to be a shock, Steve, I don't believe, when Newcastle win the title for a lot of people, because money can buy you wins. With the right choices and players and things like that, I do believe within 5 years.
Good stuff. That's what Amanda Staveley reckoned. Within the next 5 to 10 years, it will be good. Quick one on Eddie Howe before we finish. Happy with him. It looks like he's going to be the manager as we record this today.
Yeah, I think, see, the thing with managers is stuff is great. Managers are the most important part. They're the ones that bring the gel with the players. If the players don't get on with the manager and there's rifts within the team like that, we see it all the time. It doesn't work. I think proof's going to be in the pudding. If he can get the right players in the squad, and especially the starting 11, and he can get them to gel, I think the way you start is by winning games.
Yeah.
Then you install that sort of positive vibe, and then obviously the manager gets a lot of the credit, the players get the credit, and then you build from there. For me, it'll all come down to the results. I think with any manager and any football team, it all comes down to the results. The fans need the 3 points. If you don't give the fans the 3 points week in, week out, certainly at home, then there's always going to be the mud that's going to get slung at the manager. How long do you give a new manager? Well, you've got to give them a season. For me, I think a manager has to have at least a season long enough to make the changes that he believes are the right changes for the football club. You can't give him six games.
Yeah.
6 games, right? 6 defeats, right? You're out of here. You're not good enough. You're not doing this. You're not doing that. You have to give a man a little bit of time to implicate what he's wanting to put into Newcastle. But I do believe it will come with the points. Bring the points back. Certainly remember the away games. You know, you want to be going to Old Trafford and you want to be beating Man United. You want to be going to Anfield. You want to be bringing the 3 points back when you go for Anfield. That's going to be the wow factor across the whole footballing world. Bring Mo Salah back with you if you want as well. Right, because you can afford them now. Right, exactly. If you're wanting to get the players, if money's not an option, which it isn't now for Newcastle, you now have this crazy thing where you're looking at players like Mo Salah. There's a whole host of them that are out there that are underachieving. Some of them, like Paul Pogba, massively underachieving at Man United. He's not even getting his game. They're playing Fred and McTominay in front of Pogba.
Yeah, exactly.
Pogba's world class. We see it when he plays for France. He's a world class player. He's not getting on at Man United. He's not going to be happy sitting on the bench. Newcastle could probably swoop in, take a player like Pogba away, put him in a Newcastle shirt, and he would probably thrive on the opportunity to prove Man United wrong for not playing him. You know, that's what you get.
It's just nice to be in that position to be talking about those things, isn't it? Okay, but
it's like
it is. It's great. We've come to the end of the show, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. Big shout out to Spider VPN, one of our main sponsors. To protect all your internet, Google Spider VPN. They come up at the top of your search list. Skipsandbins.com 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website www.skipsandbins.com. Easy contract free and pay as you go waste collection. And the L&G Family Funeral Directors 01913897245 and the qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wales and Newcastle, and the Jab Signature, jabsignature.co.uk. And subscribe to the channel, hit Newcastle Legends logo in the bottom right hand corner, hit the thumb up to like, click share to share to your social media, and drop into the comments box to speak to like-minded fans. And we're available as a podcast on iTunes and on Spotify. Paul, been an absolute pleasure. You can buy Paul's book on Amazon. It is called Heroine to Hero. It's well worth a read, and look forward to catching up with you at some point, Paul. Good luck, mate. Speak to you soon. Take care.
Thank you, Steve.